Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another session of the Tantric Man Experience. Today, I'm super excited to have Kevin with me, the courageous, the powerful, the awesome Kevin. Welcome to the show here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, we're going to dive into here about your experience in this program. And I'm super excited to talk about this because I know like you had this huge mindset shifts, right? And finding this like masculine strength and everything, right? So if you would just like summarize in like one big takeaway, not this like long, winded thing, but just like one kind of punchline, what kind of big takeaway have you gotten so far in this program?
Um, well, actually, the main thing is just the importance of being kind to yourself, I guess. I was always a perfectionist, as I like to call myself, which is basically I've learned almost like a different word for just a really self-critical person, where the inner voices that tell you what you should do set a really almost unreasonable goal for what you should or shouldn't do, and when you fail at reaching that goal, then you just beat yourself up all over the place, and it turns you into kind of almost less of a man. I think, if you remember when we first started, I basically, one of my main goals was to actually get in touch with my masculine side, because I felt like there was a lot more feminine to it. And my wife was even telling me, you need to learn how to be a man. And I felt like, I never really knew how to do that. Never really learned how to do that. I was just kind of rolling through life passively for a lot of things. And, this course you put together has allowed me to just kind of finally, like you said, take control of who I am and learn who I am. And the learning process has been amazing. So.
Mm, that's super cool. And I loved seeing how you just gain more and more of that strength each week, and now you feel like you fully blossom into it, like we can never really get full. We can always expand, right? But now you're stepping into that power. It's so beautiful to see. So can you just talk about a little bit, a short story where you were before joining this program?
Yeah. Well, I had already been divorced once. My ex-wife is living with my kids in Hawaii, and I live in New York, so it's a long ways away, which makes it kind of a little challenging. My current relationship is on the rocks. I'm married again. I was very, very fortunate to be with the woman that I'm with, but I kind of went down this road of self-destruction again, where you read into things that aren't there, you create conflict that isn't necessarily there. And then I, got in an argument, and I basically like left and, got my own apartment so that I could focus on me. And that's, where I came into this situation, where it was a perfect opportunity. Actually, you came along right at the right time, because it allowed me to dedicate everything I had to this without any distractions. I didn't have anything else. I go to work, and then, I can focus all of my attention on this, which I think has been, you know,
Mm.
very, very valuable that I could do that, because it allowed me to kind of be a lot more open with different experiences. I might not have been as open to all of the things that are taught and encouraged here if I
Hmm.
wasn't in the position I was in. So.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And if I may ask, why was it so important to you to work on these things of, becoming your sovereign being and getting this masculine confidence and, learning to be a man? Why was that so important to you?
Well, because it's one of those things where it's like you realize, I guess, that there's always something missing, but you kind of almost convince yourself that it's someone else, that it's always somebody else's fault. You don't take accountability, you don't take responsibility for what's going on in your life. And I wasn't happy with where I was. I haven't been happy for a while, and I guess I never really realized that until this last relationship kind of, fell apart a bit. you're almost forced when you kind of hit almost like rock bottom to re-examine yourself. Like maybe everybody's right. Maybe it is me that needs to change. And what is it about me that I don't like? And, I did a little bit of a self inventory, and I didn't like that I was very sensitive to things, that I read into things, that, when I got into a disagreement with somebody, even with my family, I would basically just kind of almost cut and run, like you get an argument and then you don't talk to them for a while, and you're left kind of to your own devices where your ego is just refilling this negative self-image, and you're stuck in this cycle of, I'm a physician, by trade. Like I should be at the top of my personal well-being. And I think I let myself be a victim of my circumstance too long, and I just needed to take ownership of my life.
Yeah, so important to really hone in on that self-sovereignty and power, right? So did you try something to fix this before, or have you tried anything else?
Honestly, no. And that's the weird thing, because I just kept telling myself that there wasn't anything wrong with me. It was everybody else that was the problem. And then it wasn't until I realized that, the person I was with now she's a very patient and very giving and caring person, and she puts everybody else above herself. So if there was a point in the relationship where she was ready to walk away, then, it was kind of pretty obvious to me that there were issues with my communication. And, I kept trying to kind of force her to communicate the way that I communicate, where, you argue it out, you knock down, drag it out, kind of, you argue and then you feel better and you walk away and you're better for it. But, it was the first chance I, actually learned about different communication styles. And, when I met up with you and I started kind of going through this course, I was like, man, talk about everything happening for a reason. I mean, this was literally exactly what I needed in my life when I needed it, to put all the pieces together as to what was wrong and how to fix it.
Wow. Carl Jung talk about synchronicities, right? And if you believe in that or not, it doesn't really matter. But like you felt this pull, and it's like, oh, the right time, I have the time, everything is just feel like it's, clicking and matching, right? So how did you first find me and find the Tantric Man Experience? Like, how did that come to be?
I honestly don't even remember. I think I was just online Googling, like, how to be a man or something like that. And I came across yours, and it was just that day you were offering like a free information session. And it was something in like I honestly felt like from the beginning you were kind of like speaking to me personally. And I know that you've gotten pretty good at learning to communicate with men, because it's the same kind of situation, in different environments, different stories, but it's the same underlying theme that, you lose that, that masculinity, you lose touch with who you are. But it was something like, have you been in relationships and find that, they're not working out, are you having problems communicating with so-and-so? And like literally everything that you said, like in one of your little, things online, communicated to me. And then, when we had the call, it was like, yeah, this is for me. I mean,
it's so funny when we were like just Googling and finding the right things, right? That's really cool. I love to
it's
hear
one of
that.
those. Yeah, it's the universe just giving you what you need, though. It's literally like everything happened. Everything's there for you. You just have to be able to recognize, like when you have the sign, like, hey, this resource is there. And I've kind of almost half jokingly said that the nice thing about this coronavirus thing is all these resources that are available throughout the world that might not be available to people in remote places are now widely available for people to kind of communicate. And, the Zoom platform and all that stuff that wasn't there like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Cool stories. Synchronicities. And not everyone resonates with everything, right? So we find that resonance, and then that kind of pulls us, and we listen to that gut feeling, that heart that is driving us forward, right? So what was one of the first things that I told you to do, just coming into this experience, and there's like, you're committed, right? And you may be a little bit nervous of what's going to happen. And like, how did you feel about maybe your first assignment? And what were you thinking about if this is going to work or not in the beginning?
So the interesting thing is I actually even like took notes on that because I have like all the things that you said like in the beginning, and you're basically, went to the 5 level transformation. But here, let me see, because I even wrote it down. Like you basically said, uh, you know, be coachable, be resourceful, be open-minded and accepting, work on your mindset every day, and no negativity. Like those were the bullet points of what you said. And that was just, I can't even tell you how true that is, because every week that's what I've tried to do. That, like, you go in with an open mindset. You go in with, hey, this might not be what I would do, but he knows what he's doing because it works. And just be open-minded, which is something that I always wasn't. But it didn't take long, like with these group meetings on Sunday. I mean, I can't even tell you how unbelievably like valuable that community of brothers is, because you learn that everybody has their own issues, and some of them have ones that are even more significant and more pressing and more problematic than yours are. But in your world, you make it like it, you're dying in your current situation, and then it puts things in perspective that everybody has their own issue, and immediately it shifts your focus from, oh, woe is me, me as the victim, to everybody else. And for me, that was the most important part to this, is it allowed me the opportunity to shift my focus from like how unfortunate I was to how fortunate I was that I have this opportunity to do this kind of thing. And if I put the work in and I keep a positive mindset and I don't let the negativity come in, then the results will speak for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful when we come together as a group of men, right? And we hold a container for everyone to be part of that as a brotherhood, right? Because maybe sometimes we don't really even have too much that we want to work on ourselves. Like maybe we've done all the work and we come to the place we want to be, but even showing up and seeing others in their process and supporting others is of tremendous value to us, and we have so much healing just witnessing and being part of that process, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you even said like the the vulnerability is the one thing that you're allowed to partake in that very oftentimes we're taught to repress as men and boys. Oh, boys don't cry. Boys don't get emotional. But like in our group, every week it's a different um, person that kind of wows you about, wow, like that was really touching, that was really strong, and that was powerful. And it's great to just see and be a part of it. And it's an honor to actually like have been a part of this process.
Yeah. And initially, like what happened then? When you started to take action on the things that was instructed in this program, what happened there for you?
Well, and the interesting thing about that situation is I focused on me without even trying to focus on other people. Like I didn't even really, it wasn't even a matter of, oh, I can't wait to go home to my wife and try all this stuff out, because I made a choice that I'm working on me. So I focused on the parts that were dealing with the internal things, and it really helped kind of balance that out. And then I started finding that I was taking this positivity to work, which I wasn't doing before. And people were like, what's gotten into you? And I'm like, look, I've learned that negativity is contagious, and when you're pessimistic and you're negative about things, you create an environment where it's just not conducive to healing, I guess, where everybody's stressed, everybody's upset, and then when you make it into this cloud of emotion, it makes it so much harder to be positive. So I tried to kind of lead by example, like, all right, it's easy to complain, it's easy to be upset, but it's also easy to kind of redirect yourself and refocus. And it all comes down to the whole concept of awareness, that is that whole like mindfulness and understanding yourself. Because it's weird, at 45 years old, I never really knew myself. Like I just went through my entire life just being without really being, I guess, not really learning and understanding. And, you've put forth a wonderful program that it gives you the opportunity to kind of get in touch with the parts of who you are, with like, learning what you enjoy, what pleasures you without guilt, without having, some qualifier, and without
Mhm.
beating yourself up. If you mess up a little bit, you don't do everything exactly the way you're supposed to, it's not the end of the world. Just do better the next time, and
Mhm.
for me, that was the toughest thing to do, just learning to forgive myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's not only obvious for us, me and the brothers in the program, to see your transformation and how you're shining today and what kind of leadership you're taking, right? Because that's what we were looking for also in the beginning, like being this masculine leader or man, right? And taking more charge. And but also because I know you've been telling me that, in your workplace, they kind of say like, oh, what happened to Kevin? You seem so different now, right? So there is this like maturing or blossoming, can you say, or shining, a shine coming through you, and people noticing that, right? Have you noticed that yourself?
I have. And it's interesting because I used to, and the the internet can be your best friend, but it can also be your biggest enemy. You have to be careful about what you're looking for, because if you're looking for the wrong thing, you're going to find it. And I was always searching for ways to communicate better. How to how to do this, how to do that. But what I never realized was, like, how do you get rid of like your negative self-talk? And I mean, the rapid transformational therapy was kind of a remarkable experience, because you don't even realize how important those components are in terms of shifting the way that you believe about yourself. And I think the fact that you've incorporated that into this process has been, that and Amadeus and the shadow work and all the people that you've created as a family here to make this, you know, give the people a chance to succeed, because the majority of us have something, I don't want to say wrong, but our focus is shifted somehow in the wrong direction, or we wouldn't be here. Like, we all need some help. And you've done a wonderful job at trying to help the entire person from the top to the bottom, inside and out. Because for me, it was, going way back to things inside, all the way back to when I was a teenager, because it's been like 30 years I've been dealing with like a long history of failed relationships and failed friendships. And it's just frustrating when you look back. You're like, there's so many people that I could still be like in contact with. And I don't, like, you don't realize what you're doing until you get to this point where, you almost got to be rock bottom looking up before you actually kind of realize that you got to make some changes, because your life is not where you ever envisioned it to be. So
Mm, yeah, yeah. And where do you see yourself today? Like, where are you now? Like, in terms of your, you know, reclaiming your masculine strength and all those things you were looking for in the beginning.
I mean, it's a journey. It's a growth process. It's not like a straight line from one point to another. It's an up and a down. You have some days where you feel a little bit better about yourself than, others. So, but again, like, for me, the most important thing is just not so much even being nice and being kind to yourself, but just being forgiving. Like, just, you got to learn to put things in the past and just go forward, because yesterday might not have been a great day for you, but then make today that much better. Make the opportunity with what you have. If you're a little bit ADD like I am, make a schedule for yourself that intervenes. Um, and I noticed how you said a couple times, not just the whole story, just a little bit, because I do tend to, I like to talk, and I can get distracted and I can go on for a bit. But I definitely see the change in how I feel about myself, and it's made all the difference in how I communicate with people. I think before this started, I wouldn't have even been able to have a conversation um, without getting like frustrated and venting and being pessimistic, and being like almost like sarcastic and self-defeating. I even told my wife before we got married that the only reason she married me is because she was in a position of vulnerability, and it made her made a bad choice, and that was kind of almost the premise in which I made the relationship, that, I was telling myself almost sarcastically, like, you're better than I am. I'm not worthy of you, but, because you were in a bad place in your life, you allowed me to be a part of it. And then that created this whole environment where you were just, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you're never going to be good enough because you started off never being good enough.
Right.
So if you, you know, feel better about yourself, like, it changes how you feel, how you carry yourself, even your posture, like you find yourself slouching, you find yourself this, and, you always start daily things the same way, like, all right, sit up straight, shoulders back, arms comfortable, like, you have us reset and remembering what does a masculine person do and how do they carry themselves. And once you start learning how to do that, everything around you just changes, and it's weird, because it's like, how did I go through my whole life like this? How did I
Yeah.
let so many years go by without ever realizing that this is how it could be? It's
Mm.
kind of surreal.
It's almost like you had those like self-fulfilling prophecies of telling yourself you're not worthy and carrying this kind of lower frequency. So you were therefore like attracting these unavailable partners or this kind of relationship that you were not happy in, right? So
Mhm.
now when you start to like raise your frequency, now you have the springboard to, attract more healthy relationship because you are in a healthy place, right? Do you
Mhm.
feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Awesome, man. So, any last parting words? Do you have some takeaways for the people watching this?
Yeah. And, honestly, the most important thing is just like, trust the process. In the beginning, it's a little bit challenging, and it can even be challenging towards the end. It's almost like you said, like the forces of nature and the universe will, like, you'll attract what you think. So if you're pessimistic about it, it's not going to work out for you. I mean, just be optimistic, be open-minded. And, I can tell you, and I think, Stefo and all the other guys can tell you, like, I was, it's made a drastic difference in who I am and in, like, how I think about everything. Just being aware, and you had mentioned a couple times in your course, the very wise Eckhart Tolle, that without awareness, you have no freedom, or no free will, I think it is. And it's so true. It's like, if you're just aware of what's going on inside you, and that's all that idea of recognizing the emotions you're feeling, recognizing your triggers, being aware of what's going on will allow you to be a more complete man, because instead of just reacting and responding, own your emotions, be comfortable with what's going on, recognize what's going on with your body, redirect your energies as you can, as you focus, and, just stay positive, because if you focus on the things you're doing right instead of the things that you're not, then the outcome is going to be 10 times, 100 times greater than what you ever expected. And you're going to get the answers that you need. And, everything's going to be better.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful words, Kevin. It's been such an honor to have you on here and to follow your progress. It's such a blessing to see men doing this deep work and changing the world. Basically, I feel that's what we do. It's like ripple effects, like each man affects all our family and people around us, right? So when we have this transformation inside, we also spread that across the world, right? So I really believe that this can really shift things for us here as a human living in between the globally between men and women, the masculine and feminine as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for doing that work. I know it's not always easy, but it's rewarding in the end, right? So thanks for coming on, Kevin. Stay strong, and I will talk to you soon.